Hey people, it's me again. So, anyways, I had talked about this sort of thing earlier as far as that goes, and it was probably because of like whether it was Mudahar or it was um Moist Critical that probably might have talked about it in some aspects, but it was what was going on over um in the UK when it came to the age verification laws and all that sort of stuff. So now it is already started to go over here stateside at this point where like the Wisconsin state legislature is trying to ban VPNs to protect the children, you know, and it is like one of those little things again where it's just like the Patriot Act, or it's just like all those other little things where it was designed to protect us, but in reality, it offers little or no protection at all, or at worst, was just very erroneous laws that put us in danger more than just actually protecting us. So, anyways, I'm trying to think about uh, all this other stuff here, you know. So I'm certain that I think Tech Dirt had probably already covered that whole story, like at least in recent days, or weeks, or something like that. I don't know exactly, but um, so considering all of that, it has also been like one of the little uh, things that is like um, the whole bad guy du jour thing again. Because the people who said things about you know this sort of stuff now were the same people who said things about you know video games back in the day, and that was back in the late 90s, maybe early aughts at that point. But then these were the same people who also said things about, you know, heavy metal and all of that back then, and all this other stuff, But not that I really wanted to go into it too much, but still, still recovering from a cold. But still, it's just one of the things that it's always been the case. I'm not sure if it's just my generation that's doing this sort of thing of wanting to ban VPNs to protect children, and which is kind of ironic in that way because especially how um, growing up, it was not just like heavy metal, but also rap was on the crosshairs of the likes of Tippercore and any of these parents TV council sort of shit there because of the fact that they just don't know how to parent. And yet they get mad that, oh, now the kids are all looking at porn and all of this, or sort of stuff, when they can't do their own fucking research about it. You know, you know what I mean? But but it just reminds me of a lot of other stuff there. But I'm trying to remember the name of that episode of Lauren or SVU, because it was, if I remember correctly, it was, there was this young woman. I think she was kind of supposed to be like, like Paris Hilton or Nicole Richie back then when they were kind of popular. You know, back when Paris Hilton was kind of like, was in her hoe phase and all this, and she gets, you know, sexually assaulted and all, and and then it turns out this one of the suspects that did that, the mom was part of this sort of, one of those parental watchdog groups. And then I think at one point where she ends up shooting this guy who was one of those shock jocks, but I think he was supposed to be more like a parody of Howard Stern and any of the other shock jocks back at the back in the day. And okay, that was another one again where he was on the crosshairs of all those parental groups and all of that. But it was like, because of all the other things that happened with Howard Stern, where I think he was forced to go to Sirius XM, because of what was his name, Michael Powell, who was like the head of the FCC at the time, were and all this other stuff that was going on there, and so now it's like these are like the same people who are trying to censor the internet and all that, but they're only like for that sort of thing as long as they have the power to wield the to ban people on the internet and all that. The ones that goes on the other way, they'll be the ones that will quickly complain about it, because it's never really like a left or right issue at that point. When it came to net neutrality back then, you know. So, anyways, I guess that's probably it. So, talk to you guys later.